Hey, Walter Sorrells back with more tips for the knife maker. Today, me in a movie. So this is actually not really about me. A couple weeks ago, a pair of documentary filmmakers spent about 3 days shooting video at my shop. They're making a film called The Sun's Shadow about contemporary American swordsmithing in the Japanese tradition. So while they were at the shop, they filmed the smelt, they interviewed me, and then filmed, some sword making, some forging at the shop. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to pull back the curtain on how they went about filming their documentary and ask them a little bit about the film that they're making. Before we get started though, if you want to pick up my free PDF with 5 powerful tips for getting started as a knife maker, I've talked about it in some other videos, hit that link in the cards and descriptions. Why wouldn't you? It's free. Okay, let's hear from the filmmakers, Jason Lee Rosa and Al Clanton.
I always thought about these American craftsmen, so it'd be really cool to start filming that. We started about a year ago, and the idea was to film and document historically the craftsmen, the American craftsmen that work on specifically Japanese swords or Japanese style swords.
This is the first documentary that they've made together.
Coming into the project and the documentary, we really were like, let's try this, let's get some real equipment and be technical with it and see what we can get out of it.
On the first day of filming, I was doing a tamahagane smelt with my friend Eric Orris. Besides being a knife maker himself, Eric's family has a long background in the metalworking business, so he was able to hook us up with a ton of iron ore from an industrial supplier to the steel business near Pittsburgh. And that's the ore we were using for the smelt in this particular instance. For those of you who are not Japanese sword nerds, traditionally made Japanese blades are made from a primitive steel known as tamahagane, which is directly smelted from iron ore. In the Japanese case, it's iron sand that's scoured out of riverbeds. Obviously, we don't have access to that ore source in the United States, so we have to substitute other kinds of ore. What we're doing here is basically just dumping iron ore and charcoal into a concrete tube, blowing air through it to keep the fire burning at several thousand degrees, continuing to add fuel and ore from before the sun comes up until late in the day. By the end of the day, we'll have run through about 50 pounds of ore and several hundred pounds of charcoal. Jason and Al were here to record the entire process, literally shot hours of video, recording from early in the morning until the end of the day when the smelter was pulled apart. If all goes well, this will yield about 15 pounds of tamahagane, which will have to be forge welded and folded over and over, ultimately yielding about half enough usable steel for one single katana. Just to complete the math, that's about 500 pounds of raw material and just endless amounts of labor for one single sword.
Look at that.
Anyway, so far Jason and Al have filmed me and Howard Clark, as well as sword polisher Chris Osborne and various other sword-related craftsmen, and they'll be filming some more guys in the future. They're planning to have the video wrapped up sometime next year. At this point, it's not certain what platforms the documentary will be available on, but I'll alert everybody next year when the film's complete. Jason and Al have been friends since they were kids, growing up just a few streets from each other and sharing common interests.
Used to do skateboard and BMX videos, and then started doing music production, sound design and stuff, and kind of crossed over into doing like hip-hop videos and just filming anything.
My father really, he was always into film, and when I was a kid, I always got to watch old movies like Akira Kurosawa and these old black and white films like Charlie Chaplin. And my dad went to film school in New York, and he always gave me these books that maybe you come home and starts like, check out this guerrilla filmmaking and all this stuff, and I would take it to Al, and me and Al started applying some of this stuff.
Very early on YouTube, I kind of had like a vlog of myself. It wasn't really good, it wasn't really interesting, but I just did it just to kind of keep up with it. So it's always been something I've always liked to do. I've always kind of had an eye for it.
Just a little side note, if you watch filmmakers and photographers work, it's not uncommon to see a lot of barking and stress and miscommunication trying to get things set up and shot efficiently. But not these guys. They obviously knew each other so well that everything seemed to just flow when they worked. I'm sure some bladesmiths might find it a little distracting to be filmed this way, but since I film about half of the work that I do, I'm pretty used to working with cameras rolling. It was actually kind of fun to watch their process. I always tell people that I learn something new every time I talk to a knife maker, and this was no different, just from a filmmaking standpoint. They were basically using what you'd call guerrilla filmmaking techniques. DSLR cameras, minimal lights, everything planned to take up minimal space on the plane, minimal weight when schlepping their gear around. One of the cool things about shooting with DSLRs and even the new generation of phones is that you can get amazing quality images out of, fairly low-priced consumer gear. I really picked up quite a few things watching them. Of course, it provoked me to spend more money. Videography's like smithing. There's always some cute new tool that you think's gonna make you better at what you do. And sometimes it's even true. If you like what we're doing on the channel, be sure to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Walter Sorrells. You get access to free plans for all my knife builds, plus the warm and squishy feeling of throwing out good karma into the world. All right, let's get back to it. On the second day, Jason and Al recorded the interview with me. Even spending as much time as I do on camera, I always feel a little self-conscious in these situations. There's a big difference between me in a room by myself, or maybe with somebody I work with a lot, versus a couple guys that I don't work with all the time, and different filming approach and all that. Still, it was really a fun morning, and it gave me a good opportunity to watch guys who used a very different and more sophisticated process than I do for filming this sort of stuff. They also asked a lot of interesting questions about why I do what I do, how I work, and things like that. A lot of fun answering the questions. On the third day, we recorded me in my shop doing some forging. Now, my normal process, not including any folding or forge welding, is about 3 days of work. But I'd done some preliminary work on a forge welded Sanmai blank that was just lying around in the shop. It was basically in a preform stage, so I was able to pull it out of mothballs and forge a katana from it in 1 day. Since I'd already done the hard part a long time ago, forge welding the Sanmai and then forging it out into a preform with most of the geometry built in, that's the standard way I do it, I was able to just do the forging of the bevels, which is really the most fun and also kind of the most photogenic part of the process while the camera's rolled. This is really the part that takes it from something that looks like a crowbar to something that actually looks like a sword. And after that, they packed everything up in their car and headed back up to Virginia. Anyway, I wish Jason and Al all the best with their project, and obviously I'm really stoked about seeing how the film comes out. If you check out their Indiegogo page, it's got a whole bunch of clips of Howard Clark and some other people that they've already shot. Really nicely shot, really good looking film. Like I say, super excited to see how it turns out. And I will definitely keep you posted of their progress so that you guys can see it too when it comes out. Next week, I'm going to be doing my Pops Project of the Month, a lion killer knife. Yeah, for real. You definitely want to check that out. Super interesting story behind it. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and keep on making those knives. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and make sure that you click on that bell so you get notified of all the latest videos. Want to buy a knife from me? Check out my modern blades at tacticsarmory.com. Digging the channel? You can support our video making efforts on Patreon. You know, I've been banging away on these videos for like 10 years, so I hope you'll show some love for all that hard work. Link in the cards and descriptions. Finally, if you're interested in making Japanese swords, check out my full line of Japanese sword videos where I show how to forge Japanese swords as well as how to polish them and how to make fittings, handles, and scabbards. WalterSorrellsBlades.com.